because these folks are getting access to health care in our emergency rooms. We can do better than that, y'all, and when we win this race, we will do better than that. We will do better. Y'all, I want a chance to go to Tallahassee and to take on the NRA and let them know. That's right. I want to let them know that their time of running Tallahassee has come to an end. I want them to know that the value of our children's lives are worth us standing up for them. No parent ought to have to send their kid to school worried about whether or not they will pick them up alive or in a body bag. No parent. No neighborhood deserves to be so ravaged by the violence and the everyday violence that pervades too many of our neighborhoods that you can't let your kids play outside. That is unacceptable. We can respect the Second Amendment and at the same time protect our families. And it's just this simple. If you want to carry the power of God at your waist belt, you ought to have a background check. If you are a convicted domestic violence abuser, you should not have access to weapons where you can snuff out the lives of your loved ones. If you want to shoot a gun that can fire off 60 bullets in 60 seconds, you ought to join the military. Those weapons have no place in everyday society. We can stand up for that kind of a state. Listen, y'all, I don't know how many of y'all saw the debates. Y'all catch any of the... If you saw the debates, you saw that my opponent, Mr. DeSantis, had repeated opportunities to tell the people of this state what he wanted to do for them. Instead, he was so quick to get my name out there that it was the only thing coming out of his mouth. Well, I'm flattered, y'all, but the people of the state of Florida deserve to hear what he wants to do for us. And unfortunately, he failed the test that is most important, and that is he couldn't be honest with you. He couldn't level with you about what he wants to do. He couldn't let you know that he voted over a dozen times to repeal Obamacare. He couldn't tell you that. Well, y'all, we have an opportunity to send Mr. DeSantis and Mr. Trump both a message on November 6th. Right? Listen, and let me put some more on that. We have a chance to send them an unapologetic message, right? One that will not confuse them, that their brand of politics is no longer acceptable in the state of Florida at all, at all. So y'all, I want you to know that my wife and I, we're going to put everything we have into this. I'm so proud to be joined on this mission by the woman who is definitely and without a doubt the wind beneath my wings. She's here today. Baby, RJ Gilliam, will you stand up? Y'all, if you don't like me, vote for me because she could be your first lady. Right? But we're willing to go everywhere. We've traveled to red counties, to blue counties, to purple counties. We've seen crowds where we didn't have room enough to hold everybody. Putnam County, Clay County, Charlotte County, Escambia County. We've been all over this state, y'all. And the reason why we've gone to some of these counties, these deep red counties, because I want them to know that I want to be their governor too. I want them to know that. I want them to know that when I'm elected governor, I'm going to be a governor for all of the people of the state of Florida, not just some of the people. And so I want you to know that none of this will be possible unless we do our jobs. None of it. We can't just tweet about it, Facebook about it, Snapchat about it, and not be about it. And what does it mean to be about it? What it means to be about it is that we've got to go to the polls and vote like our lives depend on it, y'all. We got to do it. Because the truth is, Our lives do depend on who the next governor is of the great state of Florida. So we got to bring this thing on home. Some of y'all have heard me talk about bringing it home. And I want to do it here before I bring out the next speaker. I want to remind you of what this thing is about for me. As some of y'all know, because my mother and father would have to get up so early in the morning and head to work, they would load me and my siblings up in the car and drive us to my grandmama's house, where she would let us sleep a little bit longer before she would get us up and ready for the day. And my grandmother had two rituals she performed. One, she'd get her bottle of olive oil, and actually sometimes it was cooking oil, whatever the greasiest thing she could get, and she would build a cross on our forehead. It was her way of sending us out into the day with a blessing that no harm would come our way. And then her mantra would be, boy, go to school, mind your teachers, get your lesson, and one day bring it home. She would say, bring it home for your little brother, your little sister, for that boy down the street that you play with. God knows where he gonna end up. Bring it home. Bring it home for your mama and your daddy who get up every day to go out there and slave on somebody else's job to keep a roof over your head and clothes on your back and food on the table. Bring it home. Y'all, what I would come to learn my grandmother was communicating was that it wasn't just about me, that it was about the collective. It was about all of us, that if I went far in life, we would all go far in life. That if I did good in life, we would all do good in life. And under Trump's America, they're trying to brainwash us into thinking that the only way we do good is by wishing for the failure of the person next to us. Well, y'all, I reject that brand of politics. I reject it. I believe that since we're all in the same boat, we all ought to put our oars in the water and row in the same direction, and that if we do that, we all go further. We all do better when we do better. And so, y'all, we've got an opportunity in this election to send a message not just across the state of Florida, but across the nation, that that kind of divisive and derisive politics has no place anymore. In fact, that message will resonate outside of our state, around the nation, and around the world, that America is still America again, and decency and common sense and goodwill can win out over bad. So I want you to join us in bringing this win home, not just for me. I want you to bring it home for the faces that I cannot recognize, the names that I cannot call, the communities and neighborhoods who need their fair shot at life as well. God knows I've been blessed over the course of my life to this point. Y'all, we want to make sure that we can create the kind of state that works for everybody again. If we get out and vote, if we get out and organize, if we vote like our lives depend on it, we can have that kind of state. But we cannot do it without you. So y'all, let's bring it home. Let's bring it home. Let's bring it home. Well, listen, now I have the opportunity to bring to the stage y'all gotta let me get his name out, please. I want to now ask that you give a South Florida welcome to our forever president, Barack Obama.
Miami! Well, it's good to see all of you. So, First and foremost, give it up for your next representatives, Mary Barzey Flores, Debbie Mercasell Powell, and from the U, Donna Shalala, a leader that we are going to send back to the United States Senate, my friend, Bill Nelson. And give it up for an outstanding mayor, one of the most inspiring, gifted candidates that are running this year, the next governor of the great state of Florida, Andrew Gilliam. Give it up. So let me make a confession. I love you back. But you knew that. That wasn't a confession. Now, there are a lot of good reasons to come to Miami. It's starting to get a little cooler back in D.C. Leaves are falling and the wind's getting a little brisker. And, you know, around this time of year, you start thinking, I wouldn't mind being in Miami. Got the ocean. You've got really good Cuban sandwiches. You've got very nice-looking people. So there are a lot of good reasons to come to Miami. You know, it's okay. You know, you're right. Sorry. Don't curse in front of kids. Come on. Don't do that in front of children. Come on. So, we're okay. You know what? This is what I look forward to, is having a few hecklers to get me back in the mood. You know, it's like I enjoy that. You always got to have a few in order to know that you're on the campaign trail. So these are all the reasons I've come down to Miami. But the real reason I came down to Miami, because this Tuesday might be the most important election of our lifetimes. Politicians will always say that, but this time it's actually true. The stakes really are that high. The consequences of any of us staying home really are more dangerous. Because America's at a crossroads. The health care of millions. Hold on a second. Sir. Hold on a second. Listen, here's the deal. If you support the other candidates, then you should go support the other candidates. Don't be here. One of the things I never understood was why, if you're supporting the other guy, you come to my rally. Go to their rally. Go talk about what you're for. Don't come hollering here. Where was I? America's at a crossroads. The health care of millions is on the ballot. Making sure working families get a fair shake is on the ballot. But maybe most of all, the character of our country is on the ballot. In the closing weeks of this election, we have seen repeated attempts to divide us with rhetoric designed to make us angry and make us fearful. That's designed to exploit our history of racial and ethnic and religious division that pits us against one another, to make us believe that order will somehow be restored if it just weren't for those folks who don't look like we look, or don't love like we love, or pray like we do. So, it's an old playbook. It's one that the powerful and the privileged turn to whenever control starts slipping away. They'll get folks riled up just to protect their power and their privilege, even when it hurts the country, even when it puts people at risk. It's as cynical as politics gets. But in 4 days, Florida, you can reject that kind of politics. In 4 days, you can be a check on that kind of behavior. In 4 days, you can choose a bigger, more prosperous, more generous vision of America. An America where love and hope conquer hate. An America where we, the people, whatever we look like, whoever we love, however we choose to pray, however our ancestors came here, we can come together to shape our country's course. That's what Andrew Gilliam stands for. That's what Bill Nelson stands for. I'm hoping that's what you stand for. That's what you can do when you vote on Tuesday. And then we've been at this crossroads. We've been at crossroads like this before. And each time we made the right choice, not by sitting back, not by waiting for history to happen to us, but by marching and by mobilizing and by organizing and by voting to make history happen. That's how we abolished slavery in this country. That's how we overcame a Great Depression. That's how we won women's rights and workers' rights and civil rights, LGBT rights and immigrants' rights. That's what made the story of America a story of progress. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. But progress never comes without a fight. For every 2 steps of progressive change, we often take 1 step back in conservative retrenchment. Every time we start pulling ourselves closer to our founding ideals, that all of us are created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Every time we start including more people in that promise, some folks start pushing back. The status quo pushes back. You win the right to make a union, SEIU. But then somebody comes around and tries to bust your union. You win a higher minimum wage. Then Congress decides we won't raise the minimum wage for a decade. You win the right to vote. They try to make it hard for you to vote. Making this country better has never been easy. I love you too, but this is serious. 10 years ago, I was campaigning for president. You know, I was in game shape back then. That's why I didn't lose my voice. I could talk all the time. Now I'm not used to talking this much. But 10 years ago, we had just gone through a period of conservative retrenchment. Republicans had been cutting taxes for the rich. They'd been cutting rules for big banks and for polluters. We had just gotten hit with the worst financial crisis in our lifetimes. And guess what? The Democrats had to come and clean up. Bill remembers because he was there. And so with the help of Democrats like Bill Nelson, we got the economy growing again. We covered another 20 million people with health care. We doubled the amount of clean energy we generate. We put tougher rules on banks and credit card companies. We cut our deficits by more than half, in part by making sure the wealthiest paid their fair share of taxes. So by the time I left office, wages were rising, the uninsured rate was falling, the economy was growing, and by the way, that growth has just kept on going. You know, I do have to make this point because right now Republicans are all, look, the economy's so good. Where do you think that started? When did that start? They're talking about how, oh, look how many jobs we created. The economy created more jobs in the last 21 months that I was in office than it did in the 20 months after I left office. And at the time, they were saying how terrible the economy was. Anyway, we'll get to that. That's what a progressive agenda did. Now, we didn't get everything we wanted to do. You couldn't reverse 40-year economic trends in only 8 years. You couldn't bring all the jobs back that had moved overseas. You couldn't eliminate all the inequality that had built up, especially not after Republicans took over Congress and blocked everything that Bill and I and others tried to do. But now Republicans have been in control for 2 years, everything in Washington, White House, House, Senate. They've won governorships, including here in Florida. What have they done with that power? No, it's not true they haven't done nothing. That's not true. They cut taxes for the rich just like they did the last time. They stripped out rules to protect our air and water just like they did the last time. They ran up the deficit just like the last time. Just like the last time. And by the way, they actually know none of this is popular, which is part of the reason why, just like the last time, they're actively trying to disenfranchise voters to keep them from voting. They're also resorting to the same tactic that they did the last time, which is to try to scare folks with whatever boogeyman or divisive social issues they can come up with, just like they did the last time. Let's take a look at what they've been up to. They promised to take on corruption. Instead, they have racked up enough indictments to field a football team. You know, I didn't have anybody in my administration get indicted. I mean, I just thought that's how you're supposed to do things. They pledged to fight for the little guy. Instead, they doled out $1.5 trillion in tax cuts aimed at billionaires and corporations. Don't boo. Vote. Let me tell you something. Republicans can't hear you boo, but they can hear you vote. So they did not even pretend to pay for these tax cuts. And of course, deficits shot up. That's what happened. Except just 2 weeks ago, the Republican leader in Congress said, you know, now that we've gotten our tax cuts passed, we're very disturbed with the deficit. We need to bring them down. We're going to have to cut programs like Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Hey, don't take my word for it. Look it up. That's what he said. In fact, look up anything I say today, because I promise you, I believe in a fact-based campaign. The point is that cutting Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid to pay for tax cuts for folks like Rick Scott does not sound like fighting for a little guy to me. You want somebody... Actually, I think, hold on a second. There's an interesting observation I want to make. Why is it that, hold on. Why is it that the folks that won the last election are so mad all the time? It's an interesting question. I mean, like when I won the presidency, at least my side felt pretty good. You know, I don't know why. It tells you something interesting. That even the folks who are in charge are still mad. Because they're getting ginned up to be mad. That's the mindset. So you want somebody who's actually going to work for working people? Andrew Gilliam, somebody who's going to work for working people. Andrew's mom is right here. That's where he got his good looks from. Andrew was raised by a construction worker, a school bus driver. Had to work his way up the hard way to become mayor of Tallahassee. He knows the promise of this country, so he's not going to work. He's not going to work for people who had it handed to him. He's going to work for the people who had to work their way up, just like his parents did, to look after their families. Andrew has lived the American dream. And if you give him your vote, he will fight to make sure every child in Florida has the same chance that this state and this country gave him. Let's talk about health care for a second. 8 years ago, Democrats passed the Affordable Care Act. That law helps cover almost 1.6 million people just here in Florida. That law made it illegal for the first time for insurers to discriminate against folks who had a pre-existing condition. And by the way, for the young people here, you may not think about pre-existing conditions, but when you get to be 57, because insurance companies, they could categorize all kinds of things as pre-existing conditions. If you had asthma, you might not get insurance or it'd be really expensive. If you had cancer, they might not give you insurance. Just being a woman was considered a pre-existing condition because they would charge women more than men for insurance, which, when you think about it, makes absolutely no sense, because the condition women have is the power to give birth to us. And it seems to me you wouldn't want to charge somebody more for bringing us into the world. That's just my opinion. So we put in a law that said, no, you got to charge women the same as men. You can't discriminate based on pre-existing conditions. And okay, that's great. So, and by the way, on that vote, not a single Republican joined us. Not one. Zero. Nada. Zilch. None. Goose egg. None. None of them supported us. Now suddenly it's election season, and what happens? You've got Republicans out there saying, oh, well, we will protect pre-existing conditions. Trust us. Let's look at the record. Andrew's opponent was in Congress and voted to sabotage or repeal the ACA and protections for people with pre-existing conditions every chance he got. Bill's opponent, Rick Scott, don't boo, vote. So Bill's opponent is literally suing the government